So I'm at my one of my favorite parks, just doing a an update. I haven't made a video on this channel in a long time, so I think I want to start updating you and doing some vlogs and stuff like that because I have a lot of big life changes on the way. One thing, I'm getting ready to start a brand new job. If you don't know, I've been a an associate pastor for the last 3 years, working at a church, and that's been okay. But I'm looking to do something more. So I been negotiating with the church that I'm at to go down to part time. So I'm going to be part time at this church, and then I'm going to start a chaplaincy program at this hospital near me. So I'll be going through my 1 year chaplain residency program. And if you know anything about being a chaplain, you know you need four units of CPE to further the journey of becoming a board certified chaplain, which is something that most chaplains want. They want to be able to be a board certified chaplain. So that's what I'll be working towards for the next year or so, maybe the next couple of years, but especially for this next year because the residency itself is just a year. And maybe after that year, they could hire me or whatever. So I'm going to look into that. And then I also got some significant like family um, challenges that I've been dealing with that I'm probably going to deal with for the next year. So it'll be nice to document like where my headspace is at and maybe bring you along the journey because this channel is growing with Wes. So I'm trying to teach you or share what I'm learning along the way, not just to teach you, but to teach myself. Because you know, when you're able to talk about what you're reading or what you're thinking about, I think it just cements more deeply into your psyche, your brain, your heart. So that's going to be the intention. So I'm going to do more vlogging, and you know, I'll really be overthinking about okay, so how do I want to do this as far as the setup? And I really like myself in. I think that's I might be autistic, so that might be the autism in me, just wanting to make things a certain way before I even do it. But hey, I wasn't overthinking this video. I'm just gonna record it on my phone, while I'm at the park enjoying this beautiful day. But yeah, what else is going on? So I had a breakfast with some people from my church, and honestly, let me tell you about the dynamics because I'm going to talk a lot more about racial identity and racial relations on this channel. So I'm going to be more honest. You know, I'm a black man, and I work at a predominantly white church. And when I say predominantly white, I actually mean all white because I'm the only person of color there. When me and my wife go, we're the only people of color there. And I mean, there's a couple sprinkled that don't come consistently, but the consistent people there, it's mostly white people, and that could be a challenge because, I mean, multiple levels. If you talk to me, you might. I actually hit stop recording on accident. Okay, but what I was saying was, if you talk to me, you might get a sense that maybe I'm malleable in white spaces, and that's because I've been trained to be in those spaces since I was about 6 years old. My dad was in the military, so we traveled quite a bit. So when I was 6, that's when I started to be around people that did not like me or look like me. So from that age, I've been trained to be around white people, and so I lost my identity for a little bit. And I think I really noticed that when I was in college, because I went to an all white college too. And that's when I really was really starkly aware of my blackness. And I still didn't have the terminology to talk about what I feel. And now I know what it is. I've been dealing with anti-blackness most of my life. And because most of these white spaces that I've been in have been anti-black. And when I say anti-black, I don't mean you know, explicitly racist. There's not people going around saying the N word. There's not people um, explicitly talking. Well, some people are explicitly talking about like the the negativities of DEI and I mean all this stuff. That's not what I mean. I just mean the the pro white message, the carrying the pro white message in a lot of ways in this country because of the the complex racial dynamics. To be pro white in this country is to be anti-black. That's just the reality. Um, I'm still trying to make sense of, yeah, because, and I say that because white people have the power, and so to be only pro-white is to hoard the power and to hoard the responsibility, the resources. So I think to be pro-black is to be intentional about distributing resources and power to black people. So that's what I mean by I've been anti-black most of my life because I haven't been intentional about giving or doing what I can to, you know, give resources and power to black communities. I haven't been doing that intentionally. I've been in survival mode, and I didn't know, being a military brat, I didn't know anything better, and that kind of just carried me into where I am. I'm 30 years old now, and I've been noticing the problems, for the last 3 or 5 years with the my racial identity, the racial dynamics I've been experiencing doing ministry at all white churches my whole career. Now there was one church that was a little racially diverse, but it was still a white church, if you know what I mean. And if you need some clarification about that, I can do that in another video. But it was definitely still a white church. So I haven't really been intentional. And even at times in my heart, I have been very critical of the black community. And I think a lot of that was because of the anti-blackness rhetoric that I absorbed, being trained at a white seminary, just being in these white spaces. So it's layered, man. It's layered, and I can make multiple videos about this. But I just bring it up now because this is something that I'm going to continue to talk about because it's going to influence how I show up in my new job. It's going to influence how I'm part time in my current job. So, man, it's going to be something. Um, I see a little bit of those dynamics in the family issues that I'm dealing with, but not exactly. So I'm going to be talking more about what I'm reading because I do want to be intentional about stripping away the anti-blackness that is within me. Because a lot of the work that I'm reading, to be pro-black in this anti-black society is very difficult. It's very difficult because you're regularly having to push back against the pro-white agenda, and it's there. I mean, just look at who has the power, and look at what communities are being stripped of their resources and their power. Look at these data centers. I was just talking to my wife about this earlier. Where are the data centers for these chat GPT and these AI companies? Where are those data centers being built? They're being built in lower income black communities or just lower income communities to begin with. It's not just a racial thing, it's a economic thing too, and I'm aware of those dynamics. But the reality is the pro-white agenda is stripping resources and power from black communities, communities of color. I mean, this is what the whole immigration thing is all about. It's about getting these people out that don't belong so that the white communities can have the resources and the power and continue to perpetuate white supremacy. I mean, it's an agenda, and it's so layered and so detailed. But I say all that to say, like, the most important work that I can do right now is addressing the anti-blackness that's within me and doing all I can to navigate differently in light of the anti-blackness that's being stripped out of me. So that's exciting for me because I already see the benefits of this work that I'm doing. It's some hard work because you're having to be honest about your thoughts and the self-hatred that you've had towards yourself. Here's an example. Growing up in white communities, I often dated white girls. And I was attracted to black women. I always was attracted to black women. But I think the anti-blackness rhetoric that I was exposed to and adopting and accepting as truth and law, it was influencing how I was able to relate to black women. I was still stereotyping black women. And I saw that a little bit in the initial end of my relationship with my black wife. But that's something that I was able to address and been able to address throughout our marriage. I bring that up because something as simple as who I marry, I can't even decide who I marry if I'm not conscious of the anti-black rhetoric that is prevalent in our society. Because the anti-black rhetoric tells us who is beautiful and who is worthy of love and who is worthy to be a wife. I'm talking to a friend of mine who is from Guyana, who is a immigrant. He immigrated to America to come to school, and man, when I tell you he is anti-black to the core, and he doesn't know it. I I know that people accuse him of it, but he doesn't really accept that to be true. But as I talked to him, I realized, wow, I've had these talking points, and I'm ashamed of that. And so that's something that I'm addressing, and that's something I'm gonna keep talking about on this channel. But yeah, so this is Growing with Wes. So we're gonna talk more about spirituality. We're gonna talk about race relations and anti-blackness, and how I'm gonna I'm working towards becoming more pro-black. And when I say pro-black, I'm not embracing black supremacy. I mean that's I think people that are skeptical of the pro-black stance that's one thing that they're afraid of. Oh no, so you're gonna adopt black supremacist ideas. And the thing is, even if I did so, because the power is still in the hands of the white man in this country. So even if I adopt that posture, and maybe some might argue that I have every right to adopt that posture because the power structures are so imbalanced that even if I was a black extremist, maybe I'll be doing more work at leveling out the playing field than maybe someone that is more neutral like I am. But part of what makes me neutral is my dedication to my Christian faith, my belief that ultimately all people are equal. We've just adopted these systems that have corrupted how we view ourselves and the people around us. I was just talking to my wife about this. One of the reasons why I love being outside so much and why I'm probably going to continue to make nature videos outside is because there's no hierarchy out here. I mean, you could argue that maybe there's a natural hierarchy with the animals and the insects and all that, but there's no game. Like, the game is survival. I could say that, but there's no game I have to play with other humans out here. That's what I mean to say. There's no game that I have to play with other human beings out in nature. I mean, granted, if there were more people out here, I might have to, I might have to conform back to those societal norms. But when I'm out here by myself, like, I don't have to worry about white supremacy. I mean, it's still very much alive and active, but like, I get to just be for a little bit. So that's also something I'm passionate about on this video. So it's going to be very complex, and it's going to be a mixture of things that will be discussed. We're going to talk about black identity, racial identity, anti-blackness, but also like spirituality. And I'm really influenced by Michael Singer. If you've seen my other videos, you know that. And Michael Singer doesn't talk about when I think about black identity, racial problems, anti-blackness, to a degree, you can say that these are micro issues, right? And I say micro issues because, when I die, I mean, I'm not going to have to think about these issues. Or when I'm on my deathbed, I'm not going to really be thinking about these issues, right? I'm just going to be thinking about the loved ones. So I'm going to be really in touch with the macro. So Michael Singer, he really touches on the macro, and you need both. You need to be able to address the macro and the micro, but I think you need both, like, evenly. So Michael Singer, he's a white guy. He's a Jewish guy. So that's kind of the perspective he speaks from, and he's like in the 70s, right? So he doesn't talk about black issues, but he does talk about spirituality. And when I listen to his work, it grounds me in a way that, it's necessary, because what he does, he tries to get you to see the big picture. Like, one of my favorite things that I hear from him is that, like, we are on a blue rock floating through space at thousands of miles per hour, and things are happening on this blue rock, and we are responding. That is the essence of our lives. So, like, when I remind myself that, man, I'm on a floating blue rock, and I'm only here for about 80 years, and humanity has been alive for millions of years, maybe billions, I don't know. And, like, my life is so fragile, and, like, big picture, none of this really matters. But it still matters at the same time. So the macro gets to perspective, kind of gets me to see the big picture, but then, like, I still want to address the micro because I'm still relating with human beings. I still have a son and daughter that I want to raise into this world, and I want to be able to teach them about anti-blackness and how you're going to have to fight against this your whole life. So my phone ran out of storage, so I'm finishing the rest of this conversation on voice memo. I'm not going to say too much. I've been talking a lot anyway, so if you want to continue to hear some of these conversations, please feel free to subscribe, like, comment. Let me know what you're thinking about some of this stuff. Give me some book recommendations if you're into anti-black studies or, race relations. And when I say anti-black studies, please hear me say, I'm not saying studies that promote the perpetuation of anti-blackness. I'm talking about studies that address the issue of anti-blackness, white supremacy studies, all that stuff. All right, that's all I got. Also, I'm a pastor. I'm also a trained spiritual director. If you need spiritual direction or just someone to talk to about spiritual matters or even race relations, visit my website withwest.co and we can set up a time to talk. Thanks for watching.